And finally, new rule. Now that Americans are getting wise to the dangers of being spied on by the government, they have to start getting more alarmed about spying on each other. Because if the Donald Sterling mess proved anything, it's that there's a force out there just as powerful as Big Brother. Big Girlfriend. Now, last week when President Obama was asked about the Sterling episode, he said, when ignorant folks want to advertise their ignorance, just let them talk. But Sterling didn't advertise. He was bugged. And while he may not be worth defending, the Fourth Amendment is. That's the one that says we have the right to be secure in our person, in our homes, in our property. Well, not if bitching to your girlfriend in your home loses you your property. In an op-ed in the Washington Post, Kathleen Parker offered one way of dealing with the modern world's ubiquitous invasions of privacy. Give up. She wrote, if you don't want your words broadcast in the public square, don't say them. Really? Even at home? We have to talk like a White House press spokesman? She then looked on the bright side by saying, such potential exposure forces us to more carefully select our words and edit our thoughts. Always editing? I'd rather be a Mormon. And that's what we'd all be. Mitt Romney. I would listen to 100 horrific Cliven Bundy rants if that was the price of living in a world where I could also hear interesting and funny people talk without a filter. Perhaps most chilling of all, Parker said that speaking one's mind isn't really all it's cracked up to be. Which is quite a statement since her job is speaking her mind. It's like the mailman telling you letters are stupid. So let me get this straight. We should concede that there's no such thing anymore as a private conversation. So therefore, remember to lawyer everything you say before you say it. And hey, speaking your mind was overrated anyway, so you won't miss it. Well, I'll miss it. I'll miss it a lot. And for the record, speaking my mind is absolutely everything it's cracked up to be. So many things in life have let me down. The iPod Nano, the Spider-Man musical, Al Gore for president, M. Night Shyamalan movies, the entire 80s, Lance Armstrong, my scout leader. But speaking my mind, priceless. Does anyone really want there to be no place where we can let our hair down and not worry if the bad angel in our head occasionally grabs the mic? What about the bathroom? Not a public bathroom. Of course I expect to be taped and photographed in there. But my bathroom at home, would it be okay if that was kind of a cone of silence where I could invite friends in to speak freely? Who wants to live in a world where the only privacy you have is inside your head? That's what life in East Germany was like. That's why we fought the Cold War, remember?
Yeah. So those were the comments of Bill Maher, defending the comments of the racist billionaire Donald Sterling. I was making notes while he was talking, and the first lie that he stated was that Donald Sterling was bugged. Okay. He was not bugged. She had his permission to make that recording and stated, and I'm talking about V. Stiviano, however you pronounce his name. People are calling her his mistress, his girlfriend. She says they weren't. So I'm gonna take her at her word until I see something that proves otherwise. So she did whatever she did for him, whatever he gave her cars for, whatever he gave her $1 million condo for, one of the things she said she did for him was she was his archivist, meaning that, she was preserving his legacy and made recordings. She also alluded to the fact that he may be going senile and that she would make the recordings and then play them back for him when he didn't remember what he said. Now, so that's a lie. He was not bugged, okay? And the recording was made at her house, okay? And it was another person who was there, but that person wants to remain, anonymous. But there was another female who was in the house, with them. And again, it was her house. What I read was that, and this came out, the article I read today about it, just to check my facts, goes back to May 1st. And it said that, she and this person was out with Donald Sterling, and they stopped by her house so that he could rest, and said that that's when where the recording was made. And it was with his permission. Now, in the state of California, as some of you may have heard, that when you make a recording of a conversation, you have to have the permission of all parties to the conversation, before you can record them legally. Now, if she did not have his permission to record him, then why hasn't any charges of making an illegal recording of him been brought forth? She has not been charged. He's not pressing charges against her. He hasn't said that he was illegally recorded. He hasn't said that he was bugged. Okay, so Bill Maher is just protecting this racist by putting these lies out there to try to change the historical record, if you will. But you can do a Google search. You ain't got to take my word for it. Of course, this is an internet-based radio show. You have access to the internet, so Google it and check my facts if you think I'm lying. But Bill Maher is a lie. And I keep hearing this over and over, when I'm listening to various radio programs, be they on the internet, be they terrestrial, whether it's people commenting on articles, the common narrative that I keep coming across, he was illegally recorded. He was not illegally recorded. Okay. And again, I mentioned, the Fourth Amendment and the First Amendment. All right. Let me go ahead and take this call. And again, the lines are open. I just ask that people stick to what we are talking about. And so we got member of the Black Talk Radio Network family on the line. We got Mr. Max Parthis on. What's going on with you, Max?
Peace, Brother Scotty Reed. I was just sitting here listening to you. I agree with everything you're saying. I'm glad you're pointing these things out specifically, and I particularly think that Bill Maher is working for the other side to begin with. The things that he's said over the years have shown where his interests lie. So, I don't look at him as a credible source of any kind of information to begin with.
And I actually got an article pulled up that backs up what you say about his history, because remember when Rush Limbaugh made those nasty comments about Sandra Fluke and called her a slut?
Yes.
He defended him back then when he said that. Okay. And so he is pretty consistent in defending these racist people, like, Donald Sterling, like a Rush Limbaugh, and citing the First Amendment, and in this particular case on that clip, he cited the Fourth Amendment. But let me address the First Amendment. I don't have it pulled up in front of me right now, but I pretty much, know what it says. All right. And the First Amendment deals with freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom to protest, and present grievances to your government and all of that. Says that Congress shall make no laws regarding, prohibiting the free speech. That doesn't have anything to do with private parties. Okay. It says the government cannot violate your free speech. Okay. And anybody who has worked on a plantation anywhere, well, I'm not going to say that because I don't like comparing slavery to workplace, but anybody that's worked for somebody else, you just can't say whatever you want to say to whoever you want to say it to and keep a job. You know what I'm saying? I can't run in there and cuss out my boss or cuss out a fellow co-worker and call them all kind of names and then expect to be protected by the First Amendment. The First Amendment and most of the Constitution has to do with what the government can and cannot do as it pertains to our constitutional rights. Do you share my view on that, on the First Amendment?
Yes, I do, and I can read the First Amendment to you. I got it pulled up. If you
sure, go ahead.
It's pretty close. It says, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or of the right of the people to peaceably assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievance.
Says the government. Key word. The government, not the NBA, okay, not the Los Angeles Clippers, not whoever. This has nothing to do with private business. And what about private business or individuals' right not to be associated with known races?
I think that information has come down to him, and they've impressed upon him that it's only a matter of time before this A becomes a trend, and B, some of the recordings that have already been established, like the Nixon tapes and the NSA tapings and stuff like that, are going to start coming to light. Could you imagine Eric Holder or Barack Obama listening to these racists right in their own cabinets or right there in the Senate, who have been recorded saying things that make what Sterling has said seem pale in comparison, you know, and getting a hold of those? So maybe he's trying to soften it up and make it seem like, oh, we have the right to say things like that in private, and you shouldn't be prosecuting us for it.
Now, in that particular clip, Bill Maher, he did not use the First Amendment, but he used the Fourth Amendment. And I was like, Fourth Amendment? Now that's a new one. I ain't heard nobody try to use the Fourth Amendment to defend Donald Sterling. But then it makes sense that he would say that when he puts forth the lie that Donald Sterling was bugged. Again, this recording, according to the reports I read, was that he knew he was being recorded. Okay, and it was common for her to record him. And number two, it wasn't in his office. It wasn't over the telephone. It was in her home. Okay, it was in her home. So a lot of people just telling a bunch of lies, or they are woefully misinformed. Now, this is what the Fourth Amendment says. The text of the Fourth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution reads, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and a person or things to be seized. Okay, now let me just give some background on that. The Fourth Amendment to the United States Constitution, of course, is a part of the Bill of Rights that prohibits unreasonable searches and seizures and requires any warrant, okay, who issues warrants, okay, magistrates, judges, government, to be judicially sanctioned and supported by probable cause. It was adopted in response to the abuse of the writ of assistance, a type of general search warrant issued by the British government and a major source of tension in pre-revolutionary America. So again, here is Bill Maher confusing people, not telling you. It's sort of like the 13th Amendment, Max, and we talk about this all the time on New Abolitionist Radio. When we were saying we were reading these articles about slavery and the emancipation, and if it said anything about the 13th Amendment, and the only one I found that even mentioned the 13th Amendment, it cut it off. You know, it did not mention that slavery and involuntary servitude shall be abolished except for punishment for crime. They left out that part. And this is what Bill Maher has done with the Fourth Amendment.
I saw the curator of the 13th Amendment do that on a video on YouTube. He read everything but that exception clause. He skipped right over it on purpose.
And that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm alleging with Bill Maher. He is no dumb person.
The Fourth Amendment applies to stop and frisk.
Right.
That is a violation of the Fourth Amendment.
Right. To be secure in your persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures. It says nothing about being recorded, okay, and a matter of fact, in relation to police, because I'm glad that people are recording the cops and recording everything, record it all. Okay, throw it up on YouTube, throw it up on Facebook, let us see it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I'm glad that that's what is occurring. But I think it was the Sixth Circuit of the federal courts ruled that we do have a right to record in public places. Now, no, this wasn't in no public place. This was in her home. But again, you know, it does not fit the narrative that he's trying to paint, that V. Stiviano bugged him. Like, you know, she planted a bug in his office, or planted a bug in his car, or planted a bug in his house, or bugged him in a hotel room, you know, and the Fourth Amendment has absolutely nothing to do with it whatsoever.